Masturbation addiction, like many forms of compulsive behavior, can be understood through various stages. These stages represent the progression from healthy sexual expression to a potentially problematic addiction. Today, we're going to explore this journey, delving into the 4 key stages that people often experience when they grapple with masturbation addiction. Firstly, let's define what masturbation addiction is. It's the compulsive, frequent engagement in sexual self-stimulation that starts to interfere with a person's daily life, relationships, and responsibilities. It's crucial to remember that masturbation in itself is a natural and healthy part of human sexuality. However, when it becomes an uncontrollable urge, it may develop into an addiction. The journey often begins with initial exploration and enjoyment. This is the stage where individuals start to discover their bodies and understand their sexual desires. Masturbation is typically a normal part of this process, but for some, the frequency or context of this behavior may gradually increase, which can lead to the next stage. The second stage we'll discuss is escalation. Here, masturbation may start serving as a coping mechanism for stress, boredom, or other emotional issues. It can become a priority, often fueled by increasingly intense or specific fantasies. The third stage is compulsion. This is where masturbation becomes an almost uncontrollable urge, often at the expense of daily responsibilities, social interactions, or relationships. Despite feelings of guilt or shame, the compulsion to continue can be overwhelming. Lastly, we'll walk through the stage of dependence and consequences. In this stage, the individual may start to experience significant negative impacts on their personal, professional, or social life due to their masturbation habits. Despite these consequences, quitting can become increasingly difficult, often leading to a cycle of temporary cessation and relapse. Understanding these stages can provide insight into the progression of masturbation addiction and may help individuals recognize if they are experiencing a problem. So stick with us as we delve deeper into each of these stages in the following scenes. And remember, if you find this content helpful, please like and subscribe to our channel for more insightful videos. We're here to help you navigate the complexities of human sexuality and relationships. Number 1, initial exploration and enjoyment. At this stage, masturbation is a normal and healthy part of sexual development. It's a time when individuals begin to understand their bodies and discover their sexual desires. This exploration is an integral part of human sexuality, and it's a common way for people to become acquainted with their own physical responses and personal preferences. The act of masturbation can be a safe and private way to explore one's own body, to understand sexual feelings and responses. It's a stage of curiosity and discovery. Now, while most people engage in masturbation without any negative consequences, for some, the frequency or context of this behavior may start to alter. Perhaps it becomes more frequent, or the context begins to shift in ways that are not entirely healthy. And this is when we start to move from initial exploration and enjoyment into the next stage. While most engage in masturbation without any negative consequences, for some it can gradually lead to the next stage. Number 2, escalation. With time, the frequency of masturbation may start to increase. It can subtly transform from a simple act of self-exploration to a go-to remedy for stress, boredom, or a whole spectrum of emotional issues. It's like that favorite song you play on repeat, not realizing you're slowly drowning out the rest of the playlist. It's in this stage that a shift happens. Masturbation begins to climb up the priority ladder, nudging aside other activities. It's not just about physical pleasure anymore, but an emotional crutch. The urge to masturbate becomes harder to resist, like a craving that's constantly whispering in the back of your mind. And as the frequency increases, so does the intensity of the fantasies. They might become more specific, more elaborate, often fueled by the endless stream of pornography available at a click. This escalation can lead to more intense or specific fantasies, often fueled by pornography, which may further reinforce the behavior. Number 3, compulsion. At this juncture, we find ourselves in the throes of compulsion. You see, masturbation, no longer a simple act of exploration or an occasional retreat, morphs into a relentless drive, an insatiable hunger. It's like a puppeteer pulling the strings, dictating the rhythm of daily life. The individual feels an overwhelming urge to masturbate multiple times a day, sometimes even losing track of the count. There's a shift in priorities, a rearrangement of the day's itinerary. Daily responsibilities, social interactions, even relationships are all shoved aside, pushed to the periphery. The compulsion to masturbate takes center stage, the spotlight illuminating its dominance. It's not just about sexual gratification anymore, it's about filling a void, a chasm that seems to deepen with each passing day. And then there's guilt. A nagging feeling that gnaws at the conscience, a persistent whisper that something isn't quite right. Shame, too, makes an appearance, a bashful guest lurking in the shadows. The individual is acutely aware that their behavior is spinning out of control, spiraling into the abyss. They know they're dancing on the edge, teetering precariously between normalcy and obsession. But here's the catch. Recognizing a problem and acting on it are two very different things. A chasm exists between the two, a chasm that seems insurmountable. The individual, despite their growing awareness of the issue, feels trapped, ensnared in the web of their own compulsions. They're like a moth drawn to a flame, knowing full well the danger that lies ahead, yet unable to resist the allure. The drive to masturbate, once a simple act of self-discovery, has become an all-consuming fire, a relentless force that leaves destruction in its wake. It's a fire that feeds on the individual's self-control, their sense of responsibility, their social interactions. It's a fire that refuses to be quenched, no matter how hard they try. Despite recognizing the problem, the individual often feels powerless to stop, leading to the final stage. The stage where the consequences of this compulsion become all too real, all too tangible. But we'll delve into that in the next scene. Number 4, dependence and consequences. We've now hit the final stage and the most challenging one to confront. In this phase, the individual may begin to experience significant negative impacts on their personal, professional, or social life due to their masturbation habits. Imagine living in a constant state of isolation. The person feels detached from the world around them, trapped in their own bubble of compulsive behavior. They might start to pull away from friends and family, preferring solitude to company. This can lead to a sense of loneliness, of being disconnected from the world. Then there is the overwhelming feeling of shame. The individual is aware that their behavior is not normal, that it's causing harm, and yet they can't seem to stop. This shame is not just a fleeting emotion, it's a heavy weight that they carry around, a constant reminder of their addiction. Depression also often creeps in, a dark cloud that seems to hang over everything. The person might experience a persistent feeling of sadness, a loss of interest in things they once enjoyed, and a general sense of hopelessness. And let's not forget the impact on self-esteem. The person may start to see themselves in a negative light, questioning their worth and abilities. Their self-confidence takes a hit, and they might struggle with feelings of inadequacy or worthlessness. Despite these serious consequences, the individual finds it increasingly difficult to quit. It's like being stuck in a vicious cycle, a loop of temporary cessation followed by relapse. They might stop for a while, feeling a glimmer of hope, only to fall back into old habits. This cycle can be disheartening, but recognizing these stages is the first step towards seeking help and overcoming the addiction. It's a journey, one that requires courage, determination, and support. But remember, no matter how deep you are in, there is always a way out. There is always hope. Despite these consequences, the person finds it increasingly difficult to quit, often leading to a cycle of temporary cessation followed by relapse. Recognizing these stages is the first step towards seeking help and overcoming the addiction.